We are live, and I'm going to mute myself. All admin mute except for Chin.
All right. Welcome, Bulldog families. I'm getting the finger to hold, so I'm holding Anderson. Go for it. All right, welcome families. Hopefully you all have trickled in from your sessions with the teachers from earlier. Really excited to be with you all. So we are together for 30 minutes, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Here's what we're going to cover. So for the first part, we are going to just do some back to school updates. We've been in eSchool for about a month and a half now. Really excited to just share some celebrations, some areas where we want to push ourselves, how we can partner with you as parents, and some potential updates for reopening in person. I know that's top of mind for most of you. And then if you are an 8th grade family or not and just want to get some updates on our Knoll High School, feel free to stay for the last 15 minutes for that. The first 15 minutes will be quick updates from me for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll open the floor for some questions. There is an icon, if you hover over your screen, that has a little question mark on it. Feel free to populate the Q&A chat box as we go, and we'll answer those questions at the end. Slide. All right, so I want to share some celebrations, some things that I am really proud of as it relates to our school and eSchool. So I just want to name that, like, this has been a trying time. This year has been a lot for parents. I know it's been a lot for me as a parent, trying to work from home and also support my kids with their e-learning and hybrid learning that they're going through as well. And it's really hard on our kids. It's hard on everybody, our teachers. Not being able to be in person has really put a strain on everybody. But despite that, we are deeply committed to providing a world-class education to all of your students. And I am very excited to say that the learning that they are getting, even in eSchool, is top-notch. It is high quality. We spend a ton of time vetting our lesson plans, making sure we're pushing ourselves on engagement and connection with students. So that is a huge celebration for us. So I'm going to snap it up. Most of our parents know about snapping it up as well. Feel free to join me. Also, high student engagement. Our kids are on camera. They're commenting. They're going back and forth with each other and their teachers, sharing ideas and engaging as much as possible. And a lot of them are also engaging in other activities within our school that we'll talk about here in a moment. The other thing that I'm really proud to say is, despite the schedule challenges and being online, we are able to provide all of the same services for special populations that we have in person. So if your student has an IEP, if they have an ALP, which is an advanced learning plan for our gifted students, if your student is an English language learner, all of those extra supports are still embedded in our eSchool schedule. And so you might notice an additional teacher either pulling them out of their class or pushing into their class, but we are making sure that we're meeting their needs. The other thing is, if your student doesn't fall in one of those categories, but we deem that they need extra support, we still have those math and English enrichment classes, just like we did in in-person school. So really proud to continue that. And that has been going well. I think in all these areas, we have areas to improve for sure, because this is all new for all of us, but really proud of our progress. The other thing we're trying to do is create opportunities for fun and engagement, because just like being away from each other is hard. And so we want to make sure kids are still having fun and bringing the joy into school. So we've already had things like dress down days. Tomorrow is a dress down day for October count. Make sure all of your kids are there tomorrow for that. We've also had a core value point challenge, a race to 100 core value points, as well as college week, which was last week. That was a ton of fun, and more to come each month. Next slide. When I think about areas for us to grow, I'm going to go back one slide. There's a lot of areas that I can talk about, but this is probably the biggest one. Our attendance is normally 96% when we're in person, and right now we're sitting at 86%. There's a small group of students that are picking and choosing what class they attend, and then there are a few students that are opting out completely, right? Just like not coming online. And this is significantly impacting students' learning in their grades. So we are launching an attendance playbook to reach out to parents and make sure that you all are aware and receiving a robocall regularly if your student is missing class. So know that we want to partner with you to make sure that your student is successful. So that's the biggest area of focus for us right now. We want 100% of our students engaged in eSchool. Next slide. All right, so what can you do to maximize success? You can actually put all the bullets. Yeah, there we go. So the first thing here is I want you to ensure that your child is online and working for every single class. We do email out progress reports every week, so those should be in your inbox by Friday. You also have the parent portal, just like always, to check those grades weekly, and I highly recommend that you do. Check all of your communication. There's a lot of changes happening almost daily and weekly, so make sure you're reading the newsletter, flyer messages, and all DSST communication. Sometimes DPS has a different policy than us, so make sure you're reading our communication for the final word. And then this is really important. You all know I harp on reading for 20 minutes every day, and that is to ensure that your child is reading for 20 minutes. All right. Can we turn off Gutierrez's camera? I think she's on a call. The other thing is, this is really important. So we're starting this attendance plan to make sure that we get to back to that 96% attendance that we had before. So if you can check in with your students, if you get a robocall, we're going to be sending those out every day. So if your child misses one or more classes, then there will be a robocall sent to you, and just want you to check in with your student and their advisor. Next slide. All right, so this is the question of the hour. What's going on with going back in person? So we have not yet made a decision. Tomorrow is decision day. Are we going to be going back in person? So be on the lookout. In your email, you will get information on yes or no, we are going back in person. And if we do, that going back date is October 26th. So check your email tomorrow for that decision. And I also want to name what that's going to look like. All right, so if we do go back in person, it will be hybrid, which means half of the kids will be in school while the other half of the kids are online. That's going to be Monday through Thursday that they were in person. Every Friday will be virtual, and that will now be our new Wednesday. So you know how we end the day early on Wednesday? That will be Friday. Don't worry about memorizing all this information. It will be in the email that you get tomorrow if we are going back. There is no transportation from DPS for middle schoolers or for high schoolers, so just keep that in mind. And then we're going to do our very best when we look at our hybrid schedule to make sure that students remain with their teachers and their advisors as much as we can. It won't be possible to do that for everybody, just based on all of the constraints from the governor, from the health department, in terms of what this needs to look like. So just know that we will be trying for that. All right, and then on Friday, if it is a yes tomorrow, you will receive a survey. This is really important for you to pick. Are you going to be 100% virtual and online, or are you going to participate in this hybrid? And there will be an example schedule, so you know fully what we mean when we say hybrid versus 100% online. The key here is that you cannot go back and change your decision later to come back in person. Once the in-person schedule is set, it is set. And on Monday, we will have another town hall if we are in person to really spend time walking you through step by step. I'm hitting this very quickly today, but we'll take questions and spend more time really diving in deep into what this will mean from a health and safety perspective, all the way down to what it looks like in a classroom. All right, next slide. Okay, so I actually want you to pivot back to the next slide. We're going to open this up for Q&A. So again, if you have a question, if you could click the question icon and go ahead and type your question in the chat box, and then we will start answering your questions. All right, so somebody mentioned in the chat box that it's unclear what the question is, but it's something about the child having being active and us having activities. So if we are going back in person, we will not have after school sports or activities. That is a health and safety guideline that we have to follow. So as much as we want to have after school things, so what we are planning to do is have some opportunity for clubs during, and it'll be virtual during the day. We're still working on what that schedule will look like, but that's a great question about the activities. Any other questions that you all have before we transition to talking to our 8th grade families about our high school, or anybody who wants to stay on for that portion? All right, so some questions are rolling in. Let me dismiss these ones that I've already answered. This is a really good question. It says, is this another survey or is it the same survey from the family portal? It is another survey. And the reason why we're sending you another survey is that we found that some families have changed their mind as we've gotten closer to this decision date, right? So some people, you know, were comfortable before and then things have changed in their family. So we want to get a fresh, like, where are you? Top of mind answer on Friday. So this is a completely different survey coming from DSST on Friday. So that's a great question. If you can fill that out, that will give us the information that we need to schedule our master schedule appropriately. Okay, so the question from Bethany, thank you for your question, is are we picking through 2020 or for the entire school year? And Bethany, you are picking for the entire school year. However, the caveat is if you pick in person and you want to go back to online, you can do that at any time. You can just like let us know, like, hey, Dr. Chin, hey, my child's advisor, we want to go back fully online. You can do that all day, every day, right? You can decide that that's what you want to do. You can decide that in December. You can decide that in March. What you can't do is decide to be 100% online and then in March or February say we want to go back in person. And the reason for that is everybody has to be 6 feet away and everything is literally measured out. And if we have additional students coming in and out, we just can't function like that from a safety standpoint. So we have to make a decision that will last throughout the school year for in person. All right, what are the hours for in person? So the hours, we are working on that right now. Once the decision is made, we will have those hours for you on Monday, and we'll be sending out a ton of communication, like here's the schedule, here's the start and end time. It will be slightly different, slightly earlier, but it won't be the normal 7:30 to 4:30. So we will be ending earlier each day, probably around 2 to 2:30, starting probably a little bit earlier around 7:30. So that's what we're looking at for schedule. It's not finalized. The reason for that is because the bulk of the learning will still be happening virtually. And it's just hard to be on a screen, you know, from 7:30 until 4. That's a really long time to be on a screen. So we want to be mindful of that. So kids will end the day early around 2 to 2:30. More details to come on Monday during that town hall and then in your email. The next question is, can you send the students to an Outlook? Lydia, I'm not sure what your question means. Maybe
I think she's asking if you can send the survey to the students in Outlook.
Oh, okay. The survey is actually coming from DSST, Lydia, but what I'll have you do is reach out to your advisor. If you don't get it on Friday or it's not received to you in the way that you need, we're happy to forward it to a different, email or location. I would just let your child's advisor know. Just send us a quick email. All right, will teachers teach in person or online? Elizabeth, thank you for this question. Teachers will be in person in the building teaching half the kids. So let's just say there were 30 kids in the class. 15 of them will be in a classroom so they can spread out and be 6 feet apart with their mask on. The other 15 in the same class will be logging into that class virtually. So they're going to teach virtual kids and in-person kids at the same time, the same lesson. And we have new technology that we've invested in to make this happen. So for example, there's this camera called an owl that can capture what's happening in the classroom. If the teacher's writing on the board, they can see that on the screen, and the teacher and the kids in the class can see the kids that are virtual on the screen. So that is the method of teaching that will happen. We do have 1 or 2 teachers that have a medical issue that they'll have to be virtual the entire time, but for the most part, all of our teachers will be in person. All right. Okay, we have a ton of questions, so I'm not sure that we're going to be able to get to the high school portion, but I want to make sure that I answer these questions. So what will happen with transportation for hybrid return? So DPS is only providing transportation for elementary schools. 0 middle schools and 0 high schools will provide transportation. That's a huge concern for us because a lot of our students take the bus. So in that regard, I mean, that's out of our hands. We don't control that. So it would be either working with us to figure out a carpool situation if there's a parent near you in your neighborhood that's driving, or you could just choose the 100% virtual option. Will students have access to lockers? They will not. No congregating at lockers is allowed per health and safety guidelines. So they will have to take their coats, backpacks into their classrooms. The question is the hybrid schedule the same as it is now? It is not possible for it to remain the same because Denver has a lot of restrictions per health and safety guidelines. For instance, a cohort of children can only interact with 4 teachers in a day. And we know that our kids have more than 4 teachers and usually have a different advisor. So we have to finagle the schedule to meet the health and safety guidelines. We are trying our best, Sarah, to make sure that your kids remain with the same teachers that they've had and also the same advisor. We won't be able to do that in all cases, but we will be able to do it in most cases. These are some great questions. Will 8th grade scholars have classrooms ready? Yes. Classrooms will be ready if we go back in person. If I'm reading your slide correctly, if you decide to reopen, students would start on 10/26. That is correct. That is after fall break. So they would have an extended fall break the week prior, and they would start on 10/26 in person if the decision is made tomorrow. So the question is, if a student is opting out for in-person, is it for the entire school year or that just this year, calendar year? And it is for the entire school year. Again, knowing that if you go in person, you can pop back out to online at any time. Yep, answer that question for Kimbo. Why are they taking a survey? So we're taking a survey on Friday to see what your preferences are. Again, while parents filled out a survey a month or so or a couple months ago, we found that parents' preferences have changed. And so when you fill out the survey on Friday, that's going to help us to finalize our schedule, because we can't make a schedule if we don't know exactly how many people will be in person versus hybrid in person versus online. This schedule will be for the entire school year. Okay, so if eSchool remains in effect and kids do not return in person, will there be an opportunity to incorporate physical activity into the day, either in between classes or during lunch? This is from someone who is anonymous. So we do have PE for 1 of our grade levels, but what we could do in that case, particularly if that's something that is of interest of you and other folks, is we could incorporate a fitness club. That's actually something that we've been talking about doing. So yes, if we remain in person, we definitely need to think about getting our kiddos up and moving beyond those who are enrolled in PE. So a fitness club would likely be something that we can incorporate. Okay, if I already choose to have my daughter on remote learning, can I change that to hybrid at any time? No, not after you fill out your survey on Friday. You have to be committed to that choice unless you want to return back. Is this answered on parent portal? They will send you a link to the survey. It's a DSST survey. So it will likely not be via parent portal, but I'm actually not sure which medium the survey is coming from. Okay, so the question says, if students don't go back to school in person on 10/26, when would be the next date to go back in person? This is from Tony. Tony, we have no idea. That's the answer to that question. Honestly, the data, the health and safety guideline data looked good about 2 weeks ago. Like, we were pretty confident we were going back. And in the last 2 weeks, data in Denver particularly, and I think this is also nationally, has gone down and not looked favorable. So the decision to go back in person, we have to meet 4 health and safety guidelines. And as long as those look strong, we get the go ahead to go from the health and safety department. So I don't know when would be the next. It really depends on what that data looks like. They like to see 14 days of positive data from COVID. Will online be what they are doing now? The curriculum, like I said, is pretty strong in terms of what kids are experiencing. So the curriculum will likely not change. This is just the delivery method would change if we were in line and or on. Oh, so I think her question is the curriculum or are the classes different when they're in person? The answer to that is no. It's the exact same class if you're online versus if you're in person. The question is from Danielle. This is, why is there a decision not to have buses? Was this a health decision that will change? Danielle, so the transportation department at DPS makes that decision. We have nothing to do with that decision. And my understanding is that it has to do with health and safety, and it has to do with the transportation department's capacity to safely transport meeting the state guidelines. And I don't think they're able to do that with all grade levels. There should be information on the DPS website. They have a particular transportation page that'll give you more details. If we go into hybrid model, how will you handle outbreaks? So I'm not the way that they've been handled in other school districts, for example, Cherry Creek. And that's why we put kiddos in small cohorts. So if there's a breakout, that cohort would go completely online, right? If folks were impacted. That is the current health and safety guidelines, but we'll go more into depth once we have a decision tomorrow. If students go in person, do they need to bring school supplies? Yes, they will, and we will give you information about that. It won't be very different than what we had already sent you for the supply list, but it may be less. They may need less things just given the situation. Question, with their same teachers, we're going to do our very best. We think that continuity is important. Will they have time to talk to their friends? Yes, they will have time to talk to their friends. It'll just be 6 feet away with a mask on, but they will have opportunities. Is online going to be the same schedule? I answered that one. There will not be sports for the rest of the school year. That is really sad for all of us for middle schools. They are looking at a little bit of a different process for high schools through CHASA. I think they might be starting in the winter. But for right now, everything that we know about middle school is there will be no sports. Yeah, so somebody said that I mentioned a sample schedule included in the communication on the decision to reopen tomorrow. Will that include safety plans as well? Yes, that will include the safety guidelines, and we will go over that in our town hall in detail on Monday. We'll record that too, so if you're not there, you can have that recording. All right. Are you guys going to provide masks? We do have masks available. We are asking families to bring their own masks if you guys already have them for your students. But if you need a mask, we can definitely support with that. What is the expectation of monitoring students that are online? So that's a great question. That's one of the biggest challenges. We will have a proctor supporting each class that we have. So there'll be essentially like 2 teachers one teacher supporting the online students in the class and then the actual teacher in the class. So there will be a proctor is what we're calling them, which is another adult, making sure that the kids that are online who have questions, that there's communication back and forth with that teacher. That's a really good question. All right. Will all students who opt into hybrid be guaranteed a seat? Yes, they will be guaranteed a seat just based on where their numbers fall. Yes, they will. Will kids be required to wear uniform if they stay in e-school? It will be the same. It will be the e-school uniform, which is just from the waist up. So that won't change for e-school students. When they're in person, it'll be the full uniform. Lori said, my answer to the survey will depend on the school hours since there is no transportation. Will you be able to let us know that by Friday? Yes. Yes, we will let you know what those hours are so that I can help you with the survey. So the question is, will they go to school for the whole week if they opt into in-person, or will it be some days in school and some days online? Angie asked that question. That's a great question. Angie, they will be in school if they opt in for hybrid Monday through Thursday every other week. So the kids will be split in half and your kid will have an A week. So A week, they go Monday through Thursday. They're online on Friday. And then the next week, they're online all week. And then the following week, it'll rotate. All right, Ms. Gutierrez just added in a note about transportation. This was also in our newsletter that we sent out today, that students can apply and get a free RTD pass. So that is something you can avail of if that works for you. If we go in person, will students need to bring their own lunches? They will be provided, great question, Danielle, lunches, like a sack lunch. It won't be in the way that it was before, where we used to have a salad bar and they can pick the fruit and all that. That won't be happening, but they will have a sack lunch that they'll go pick up and then they'll come back and eat that in the classroom. Will students be required to bring their own hand sanitizer and lunch? No, they do not have to bring that. We have that on deck. And if someone gets COVID, is the question, in the building. Tony asked that. So we're going to go over those health and safety guidelines in more detail, but essentially what we would do is just make sure we follow the quarantine process, and we may have to quarantine an entire cohort of teachers and students, which is why we are cohorting them, so that we don't have to do that with an entire school. What about art clubs? We do have clubs that are rolling out as we speak. Throughout a day, which is pretty difficult if you guys know our current schedule. I don't know if there's a specific art club, but kids do have the option to start a club in addition to the clubs that we have. We have had art club in the past. That is likely to be, I actually do think we have art club on deck currently. All of our clubs, once they're stamped and finalized, will be on the website. Yes, students will need to be in uniform. That hasn't changed. Our school dances canceled. I know, it's so sad. Yes, they are in-person dances are canceled. I don't know, we've been talking about virtual options for that, but that's where we are with that. All right, we have 2 more minutes. I want to make sure I get to everybody's questions. How would seating go for lunch? We will not be having lunch in the cafeteria. It will be in their respective classrooms. Oh, thank you. We got a shout out for all the work that we've been doing. It's been a lot, y'all. It's been a lot of long hours. I really appreciate that. I don't know who said that, but yes, we appreciate you all and your partnership. We know this is hard for everybody. But again, want to do our best for our kids for sure. Trinity's mom, will they have after school activities for students? They may need to be picked up later than 2:30 due to siblings getting out at the same time. So no, we were told firm no, because you know we try. Staggered exit as well. So again, that information will come out to you ASAP this week if a decision is made tomorrow. How do we get the RTD pass? Gutierrez, can you speak to that?
Yes. So in order to get access to the RTD Pass, review our newsletter that I sent out today. If you have any questions after reviewing the newsletter, please shoot me an email at dsstnull@scienceandtech.org, and then I will help you from there.
All right, and the last and final question that we have, we are right at 6:30, so appreciate everybody hanging in here. If my child gets a high fever and is sick, will they be required to get a COVID test before returning? That is likely to happen. I know that has happened to me with a couple of my kids, and they didn't even have a fever, and they're in a different area of town, but that is highly likely. Again, we'll go over in depth all of the scenarios by which you know, we would handle that situation for sure. Is there still student council? Yes, there is student council, and please have your student join. We just had an information session last week on Friday that was virtual. Mr. Clanton, who is the dean of 8th grade, led that session. So yes, please have them reach out to Mr. Clanton right away, because I believe they are starting their campaigning, and we're going to try to align the election vote with the actual election to get our kids to understand the importance of voting and all that. So make sure they get that in. So yes, we will have student council. We're really excited about that. Mr. Clanton's email is in the chat box and is also on our website. So we are at time. I want to thank everybody for coming, and I just want to name next steps. So again, check your email tomorrow. You'll find out about the in-person decision, and we were going to go over the Knoll High School and all of that, but I will make sure to add that to another time when we have a town hall because we didn't have time to address it today. So our Knoll High School, we have 8th graders. So next year, our Knoll High School is coming. So I wanted to talk to the 8th grade families about that, but I will make sure to reschedule that as well. How is Refocus going to work? It is likely, that's a great question. We're still trying to figure it out. But it'll not just Refocus, but we have college prep where students come if they didn't finish their homework and they need additional help, or they didn't finish classwork, they need additional support. We're trying to figure out mandatory tutoring, as well as Refocus silent lunch. So we have 4 interventions. We don't have after school anymore, so we are working to figure that out. We definitely want to continue to support our students. So know that I'll be in conversations with Ms. Favorite today and tomorrow to solidify what that will look like. And again, we'll go through all of this in our town hall on Monday if we are in fact going back. All right, thank you all for coming. We're going to end here to be respectful of everybody's time on this call, and expect more communication from me in the home office tomorrow and Friday, and hope to see you at our town hall on Monday if we're going back from 5. We will likely extend that that time given the amount of questions that we had today, but we'll be starting promptly at 5 on Monday. We will also record it and make sure it is on our website. Thanks, everybody.